What's up, guys? Welcome back to Peak Performance Engineering. I'm Brandon, and this is my daughter, Cameron. And Cameron, what are we going to be working on today?
So, we are going to be working on taking this gray dirty seat out and putting a brand new black seat inside here, so it doesn't look that crappy. Because look at this. That's literally, look at that.
It's coming apart. So she's absolutely right. So one of the things, I have multiple things that we need to work on this car over the next few weeks. But one of the main things I want to start doing today is I'm going to start removing these original they're factory seats, but someone's recovered them in like a gray fabric material. I think what happened was when they originally did the 5-liter swap from the 88 Mustang GT Fox body, I think they also kind of wanted to tie in some 80s feel. At least that's what it feels like to me with this gray fabric material. So what happened was I ended up cruising Facebook Classifieds yesterday, the marketplace, and I ended up finding a sweet deal on a newly recovered bench seat for 67 Mustang, which will bolt right into our 65. It's the same car. And for me, I think having kind of the center armrest of the new bench seat is going to be awesome. So especially for the power tour, it's going to be a lot more comfortable. It's going to be really nice. All right, and so beyond doing just these seats, I also have a lot of other little stuff to do. One of those is still finishing this Willwood master cylinder install. I ended up having to order a new brake switch. That came in today, so I've got to get the brake switch and get that installed. That'll be pretty simple. And besides that, I've got some suspension work to do. Let me go ahead and show you guys what we got here. So as you guys have seen before in some of the other videos, our Mustang kind of leans a bit to the left. And I think the reason why might be from the original, I guess you call them spring perches. I don't know. Basically, these are what go around the bottom of the rear end with the U-bolts. And so on our Mustang right now, they've kind of been cut a bit. For some reason, I think they had to make some clearances here and here. And so it looks like on one of them that it's kind of bent. So I went ahead, ordered 2 new ones of these, left and right. So hopefully that'll fix our issue. And then because we had the issue in the last episode you saw where our shocks are not kind of in great shape, I'm going to go ahead and replace those. I did end up ordering a full set of KYB heavy duty shocks for a Mustang, which, they're right here. So I think I ended up getting this full set of shocks from Summit Racing. I think it was about 180 bucks. So pretty inexpensive. I wanted to get some Bilsteins, but they're about $500. So I said, you know what, for now, at least we'll know it's got halfway decent suspension just so we can go on this power tour, have it working okay. So all we got to do is finish unbolting the fronts on the bottom. That'll slide out. We can pop it in and then go over to the back, slide out the shocks and all that good stuff. I did already get kind of a head start here where I already started popping out the back seats. There's no bolts in these seats, so you literally just kind of pull the top, it slides down, and well, actually I haven't pulled the bottom, but I think it's a similar thing. So there shouldn't be any bolts, and then the shock access to the top bolts is just right here, which I'll get you guys some better shots. So anyway, lots of stuff to do. So I don't really have an order. I'm just gonna start kind of jumping into stuff back and forth and hopefully get it all done. Go.
And we, guys, I actually was wiggling this so he would see that this was really loose.
Yep, it's really loose, huh?
It's really loose.
It is, for sure.
It'll just fall right off.
All right, let's get started. You ready?
Yes!
Also, for our bucket seats, we do have some new red seat belts. So the reason why I had to get new seat belts is there's seat belts in all 3 seat positions except for the driver's seat for some reason. I have no idea why. So I just figured, hey, why not get red seat belts, at least for the front? I'm not going to replace the backs right now. They're just going to stay black. But since we're already going to be pulling these seats anyway for this new bench seat, I'm just going to replace them with some red ones. Maybe eventually we'll get some new door inserts and either go, they look crappy, either go black or I might even go red. So we'll just have kind of red inserts and then the rest of the interior eventually will be black. So
you should do
we'll see.
Red, because this is black. You're putting these black.
Right.
And this car is black and your phone's black. So that should be black because there's going to be 3 things of black. 4 things of black things and only 3 of red things.
Sure.
So that should be good.
Got it. So kind of my strategy on this interior is to just go ahead and pop these seats out And then that'll give me kind of more access to get back here and be able to work, because I'm going to have to get this panel off, like I said, to be able to do this. And then also get access back here to, these are the holes to get to the top of the shock. Yep, you can see that there. So yeah, so I'm thinking it'll be even easier without the seats in here. I'll just kind of pull them all out. And then, because I'm going to have to swap seat belts and stuff anyway. Yeah, and then I already got that brake switch put back in. I didn't film that. It's just kind of, it's too hard to see up in there, but it's, you know, it's at the top of the brake lever, so it's somewhere up there. But that was pretty simple. So I was actually just popping under the car to have a look at the seat bolts, and I noticed we got a bit of a puddle down here of brake fluid. So apparently some of these new lines that we put in here at this master cylinder are not tight. So I'm just trying to get the reservoir off, and I'll have to kind of dry this up a little bit and check to see which one's leaking. And then hopefully I can maybe get to it from underneath the car, because if it's the bottom, the very bottom where it goes into this proportioning valve, it's pretty hard to get to from up top now that it's all put back. So I might have to get to it from underneath, but hopefully we can get that tightened up, get that stopped leaking. So I've been messing with this gosh dang master cylinder for about 20 minutes. And I did tighten up a few lines. There was more than one leak on this bad boy, but the main one that looks like it's leaking is going on the bottom here to the back, the line that goes all the way to the back brakes. And the reason why it looks like is I put the 10 PSI residual valve. What I thought was smart is I tried to connect it right up to the underside, but it seems like that's leaking. It's really hard to get to. So I'm going to kind of ignore it for now. I think what I'm going to end up doing is probably unbolting the master cylinder so I can kind of get it up a little bit, and then I'm going to see if I can get that fitting off. And if I can get it off, I'm just going to take the brake line and just connect only the brake line, and then I'm going to go under the car and probably just cut the rear brake line somewhere where it's easy to access underneath the car, and I'll put that 10 PSI residual valve somewhere there. That's just going to make life a lot easier, because right now it's too difficult to try to get to. It's causing leaks, all kinds of issues. So we're going to ignore that for now. Let's move on to some easier stuff. So I started jacking the car up so that I can come in here and pop in these new shocks into the back. So again, pretty simple, pretty straightforward stuff. The rear seats just kind of popped right out. And now we've got access to these top bolts for the shocks. So we're just going to simply pop those out. And you guys have already seen in one of the other videos kind of this whole removal basically. But we're going to get under here, and we'll get rid of these the little spring perch U-bolt thing. So that's just 4 bolts and then 1 bolt for the shock. And then we're going to replace those with those new, gosh, I don't even know what you call them, these new plates. So hopefully those, along with the new shocks, will get the car sitting a little bit even instead of being crooked like it is. So I'm going to get to that. Now here's a quick side-by-side comparison of this spring perch thing. I don't know why I keep calling it spring perch. I don't know what it is. You know, basically it goes under the leaf spring, and then the U-bolts go through to hold the axle on. So I don't know. But anyway, the new one's actually quite a bit beefier. You can see too, like over the years, you know, some guys tried to hollow these things out, probably when he put on the other U-bolts for the lowering blocks, you know, and they kind of messed with it. This one doesn't seem to be bent. I want to say on the other side, I thought that maybe they'd cut some of this and it looked like the bracket had bent and stuff like that. So this was the aftermarket kind of thing to be able to adapt it to the shock the guy was running. He told me, like, I don't know, I think these shocks were from some kind of like later model Mustang. So it wasn't like, you know, something for 65. I'm not even sure if it's the right size here. So it's a little bit taller. So who knows? It may shrink the car down a little bit, putting in the this factory shock. So we'll see. All right, guys. So we've kind of ran into a weird little issue. So on this one here with these U-bolts, you know, they fit fine, of course. On this new part, they don't even really come close. So it's kind of annoying. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and hog these out, just these 4 holes, which sucks on a new part that's supposed to fit. But that's all I can think of, because this U-bolt diameter, whatever this is, I don't know, maybe it's 3 inches. It fits, you know, snugly around the axle, around the rear end. So this is definitely correct for the rear end. I can't really bend this in anymore, because then it won't fit over the axle. Ask me how, I already know. So yeah, I think that's the only option. you know, I have no idea what rear end is in this car. Maybe they swapped it, and so maybe it's a little bit, you know, heavier duty axle. Like maybe it's you know, from some later model car or something. Who knows, right? I guess I'll have to post a picture and ask you guys if you can tell me what it is. So anyway, regardless, yeah, I mean, I don't know, because this doesn't even match this either. So, I mean, both in this and in this. So this just must be some kind of, you know, universal Ford part that doesn't work, but whatever. We're going to hog these out, and it's still going to be way stronger and beefier. My only main concern with this was really just the bending of this. So this is still going to be strong. It's not going to affect it. The bolts and lock washers I have are really, really big. So even if I hog this out a little bit, it's not going to be too big of a deal. All right, guys. So we got the driver's side pretty much done. I just wanted to bring you guys under here before I tightened up this shock, but here's our new mount. Now, because I did have to hollow out these holes, I was a little bit, you know, wanted to be extra cautious. So I had these huge ass washers in my toolbox. So I put these on. I think these are some grade 8 hardware. So we should be totally solid. There's no way these things are going to rip through here now. Everything lined up fine. So I've already got the shock tightened up there. Look at those things, brand new, beautiful. So on these old school cars, apparently all you do is you literally just tighten this nut until these rubber doohickey thingies expand to the width of the metal washer, and that's it. So you just literally tighten it. It doesn't take a whole lot, and then you put the little jam nut on the end just to keep that from backing out, and that is it. So pretty simple. So now I've got to kind of painstakingly pop the other side out, which is quick. The hard part's taking me forever is hollowing out these holes. So anyway, that's going to be it. I mean, there's not much to this, right? Just really 6 bolts, you know, 4 there, 2 on the shock, and pop it in and out from inside. So pretty easy job. I'm going to get the other side done, and that's probably going to be it for tonight. The best part about swapping out these shocks and those whatever leaf spring mounts or whatever, it does look like the car is finally freaking even. So no more crazy lean like this. So she is looking good, at least here in the back. So that's awesome. Looks like probably sits a little higher too than it did, just because, you know, we've got new shocks. They got to settle a little bit, but anyway, that's fine. So hopefully it rides better and all that good stuff. I did notice here on the leaf spring shackles, the polyurethane or rubber or whatever is like, you know, it's really old. It's kind of falling apart. So that's something I'll definitely need to do in the wintertime is probably just replace the entire leaf spring. Honestly, go with like maybe one of the aftermarket ones, so give it a little bit better performance or whatever. So it's about 1 in the morning. I'm ready to call it quits, but we did get the rear suspension done in the Mustang. So now we got both shocks in, both those new spring perch things. Man, it took what should have been, you know, maybe 1 hour total. It took so long because we had to grind those bottom perch things out, you know, with a freaking Unibit. I didn't have any better tool, like a small little cylindrical Dremel, to be able to hug those out. So it took forever, and I need a lift. That would be awesome. But anyway, that's going to be it for tonight. So I'll pick it back up tomorrow. All right, so it's the next morning, and it looks like we're going to have some awesome weather today. So I'm going to try to get some hours in today on this car. And I think the first thing we're going to try to do, now that the rear suspension's all done, is get in on this interior. And this guy right here is loose. And so to be able to fix this, you've got to actually kind of remove this inner door panel, the crank arm for the rear window, some other trim here. So I'm going to get started on that, get that done, because we can't be driving hundreds of miles with this thing loose. Once that's complete, then I'm going to move on next to the front seats and start getting in that new bench seat. So if I get those things done today, that would be pretty awesome. And then kind of the other thing, the real big thing left would be the brakes. The problem with the brakes is I don't really want to start pulling off the front wheels and pull off the front brakes until I get this Plymouth sold. So I might have a guy coming to buy my 66 Plymouth, and if that happens, I'll have more room to move the Mustang, and then the death cart can still actually kind of go where the Plymouth is right now. So I'm hoping that happens either today or tomorrow, and then I can probably start working more on the braking system on Sunday. Today's Friday, so that's kind of my plan, and then that should give us plenty of time. I mean, we still got a couple of weeks left before the power tour, before the Dream Cruise. So, you know, if I can get the interior stuff knocked out, maybe even remove the 2 bolts with the wheels still on for the suspension, we should be in good shape. So let's get started. Let me get you guys closer and show you what I'm working on. All right, so hopping in here, basically my understanding is we just got to take off, there's like an Allen head key to be able to remove this crank arm, and then there's just a bunch of little, maybe 3 or 4 screws to get off, and then this panel will come off. We do also have to pop off this trim right here, something like this. Holy cow, she's on there. And then also this piece right here. So basically you get all those off, this panel comes off, and then we have access to fix those bolts. But now that I'm looking at it, just to make it easier on myself, I'm probably gonna go ahead and unbolt these seats. So I'm also gonna actually take these parts that came off the car for the these kind of lock in the front shocks. And then this is the export brace. I just kind of shined it up with some wax and grease remover, but I'm just going to take this thing outside, shoot it with some paint, just so it kind of looks a little better. There's some kind of rust around, you know, the edges. So just want to make sure it looks kind of halfway decent before I pop it all back on. But I want to get that painted right now, so that way tomorrow or Sunday, it's already had time to dry for 24, 48 hours, kind of harden up a bit, and then we can blow that back onto the car and be good to go. Alright, so just 4 bolts on this bad boy, and this seat is out, and what do we have here? Some kind of little computer looking deal. Must be for the radio, I guess, I don't know. Some kind of receiver, but look at all this kind of ghetto action that they got rocking on in here. Let me zoom you in. Don't know how well you can see it. Let's pop you off here. So for some reason, I think because this seat is so screwed up, they ended up having to use 4 million washers to try to prop the seat up, but it was still real screwed up. So anyway, got that one out, pop this one out, and then we'll move on to trying to get this all off here. All right, so now we're moving on to getting out this whole interior here. So it was only like 4 or 5 screws. Yeah. I already kind of loosened them for her, and she's just popping them out for me. And then there should be like 6 or 8 screws on this thing, but we're missing quite a few screws. So we'll see if we can fix that. If not, it's good enough. So yeah, once that's out, we should have complete access to this thing. And then hopefully none of these studs are broken. Hopefully it's just an issue with the little lock nuts or whatever coming loose, and we can either get new ones or tighten them, I'm hoping. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It has to be like...
Heck yeah, there you go. 3 or 4 more. All this stuff will be out. You know, I love you guys are hard at work. I think I'm going to take a coffee break.
No. How dare you? How dare you?
Now we have access to these bolts. So this is what that panel looks like. So again, once the bolts are out, this just kind of went up a little bit, slid right out. Very simply, kids basically did it themselves. And then if we look over here, what we got going on is, luckily it looks like we still have screws. So that's good. We still have nuts. Just for some reason, they're loose. So I think I can feel at least 2 of them. I think there's 3. One's just a little bit farther up in here. You got to slide your hand up in. But hopefully shouldn't be too much work. We'll get a wrench or maybe a socket if we're lucky and tighten these things up and put it all back together. This job will be done. And in other news, Cameron has a huge slug.
Don't touch it. It'll make your hands sticky.
Ew.
It's disgusting. But you can touch his little things. It just goes right back in. Boop, boop.
Awesome. Awesome.
I love
Also today we should be getting the new alternator back for the death cart. So hopefully by the end of the day I can get the alternator bolted back on. And if this thing works, then we're going to hit some car shows tonight, and then Cars and Coffee tomorrow. So fingers crossed that freaking finally works. All right, we are going to call this job done. No more loosey-goosey. Luckily, like I said, all those nuts were already on there. They did have some lock washers. They just must not have. They must have just hand tightened them. I went hand tight plus maybe another half to 1 turn with a socket or a wrench. So I'm hoping this thing will not come loose anytime soon. Now we do have some under the seats back here. I see some mouse turds, some other junk, and stuff like that. So while everything's out of here, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of vacuum this whole interior. Let's clean it out. Let's go ahead and get this other seat out, and then we can start on the bench seat. So we got both seats out now. This seat here came out no problem. All the factory studs were still intact. On this seat, 3 of the studs were broken. So what these guys did was they inserted bolts. And the problem was from the underside, as soon as the bolts started to come loose, they just started to spin. So luckily my awesome wife came out here. She helped me out, jammed a screwdriver in there to hold it, and then I was able to get these bolts out. But there was about 20 minutes there where sheer panic was setting in that I thought I was stripping one of the bolts from the bottom, because that's what it felt like. But all it was the nut up here just kind of hitting that like the side of the rail, the chair rail or whatever, the seat rail. So that was sketchy, but we overcame it. I'm just gonna clean this out real quick with a vacuum, and then my wife's gonna help me to kind of get this big ass bench seat and sit her in place. And then the last thing we got to do is go get some more bolts for the seat belts. I did have bolts here, but I didn't have the right bolts on this side. The other thing I found out is the bolts that go in here on this side are fine. The exhaust is kind of running right underneath this. It's tight, but I got room. On this side, they have the exhaust ran like right up against the tunnel. So right where this bolt shoots out, it's literally just hitting the exhaust. So I've got to fix this exhaust anyway, like I've been telling you guys, because the guy that I got this car from decided to cut off just one of the mufflers. And I guess he wanted to see how it sounded or something. So there's literally like a piece of straight pipe right there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and like lower the hangers, and then I'll be able to put in the bolts for these stupid seat belts. And then I guess I'll probably end up welding and fixing the exhaust myself over the next week. I mean, I got a welder, I guess I could do it myself. I was hoping not to, but since we already have to do this much work, we're just gonna do it. So not sure, yeah, let's try to get the seat set in there today and then see how far we can get. But the death cart is running now. We got the new alternator, so it seems to be working. I need to go test on it. And if it is working, I'm gonna go to a car show. So we're gonna get out of here in about the next hour. And then I'm gonna be posting these bad boys up for sale. This one has a hard lean on it, so I don't know if it needs just the new seat foam or if there's something wrong with the frame. It all looks okay, but anyway, if anyone sees this video and needs one of these, let me know. But tracks are still good. Like I said, this one has all the studs. This one I think has one stud left, and then they shot some bolts through there, so I'd probably tack weld those in place if it was me. All right, so getting this new seat in was super easy, surprisingly, because everything else on this car has been a pain in the butt. So with the bench seat, there's actually only 4 studs, just 2 on each end. So instead of having 8 total, so it's gonna make bolting this thing on a lot easier. Just crawl under there, put some bolts back in, but surprisingly it slid in pretty dang easy. It changes the look of the car. I mean, look at this. It totally, the black looks so much better than this ugly gray stuff they had in there. I mean, that's still ugly and gray. So I'm on the lookout for either I'll buy covers eventually because the foam seems in good shape just to recover it. But if I can find another good deal on a set that's already done that's in good shape, I'd rather go that route, save the labor. I ended up getting this bench seat locally for only $300, and it looks like it was just recently recovered. I mean, it looks beautiful, so you can't beat that. I mean, just the seat covers alone to do it yourself is about $300. So it's awesome, and it's gonna be so comfortable. I'm gonna have an actual armrest now. I mean, if I'm ever just going to the store with the kids, I could pop both kids up front with me. So I think it's awesome. And I've never really seen a Mustang, I don't think, with a bench seat. So it's kind of cool. All right, now I got to head to the parts store, get some bolts for these seat belts. And then we'll maybe pick it up tomorrow or Sunday because I'm going to have to kind of drop this exhaust and do a whole bunch of stuff. But at least the seats are all in and looking sweet. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I'll catch you guys up when I get a chance to work on it, hopefully later this weekend. But hopefully you enjoyed what you watched. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.